What would getting a legit number 3 wide receiver mean for the offense? Now, I know that you guys are thinking about the Seahawks offense last year and saying, what are you talking about? They don't need a number 3 wide receiver because they were able to utilize their tight ends so effectively this year. So who really cares? But what happens not only in a world where you don't have a healthy Tyler Lockett and DK at the same time, but also, like, what would potentially happen in a world where they were both healthy, you had tight ends, and also a great number 3 wide receiver, right? Like, you can have it all. So what if they did? Bump, where do you want to start with this one? We can start with, like, who it could be, where they could find it, or we can just talk about, like, what does having that target do?
Let's start with what it means to have that target, what it does
Existential.
to
We're
your
going real
offense.
existential.
Yeah. So if you look at last year, Marquise Goodwin was your number 3 receiver. Now, Noah Fant had the 3rd most receptions, the 3rd most yards, and was tied for 3rd most when it comes to touchdowns with 4. But when you have a legit number 3 receiver, what that does for your offense, it allows them to be more of a threat in certain personnel groups. A personnel group is the offensive weapons that you come out with. Now, imagine a world where you come out with a 3 receiver set, a 1 tight end set, and and your 3rd receiver is a legit threat. Now, Marquise Goodwin was a legit threat. He has some big plays, a long of 38. He has 9 big plays, only averaged around 30 yards per game. Mm-hmm. He had his big moments, but he wasn't a guy every single week to where you expected him to make a big play or 2. So imagine lining up in a 3-by-1 formation, and you put your tight end in that third slot spot. Boom, you got a DK isolated on the backside. You call plays according to what you think your personnel could do. So you have a number 3 receiver. It just gives you more options. It allows Shane Waldron to be more creative with his play calling. It makes defenses have to prepare a bit more.
Could that guy be D. Eskridge, or could that guy be someone already on the roster?
Hey, if there's anybody who's been an advocate of D. Eskridge, it's been your boy. The last couple years,
Facts.
It's been your boy. Physically, can he do it? Yeah, he can do it.
Right.
Anyone in the league is probably physically capable of doing it. But you got to know the playbook. You have to make plays in practice. And most importantly, you have to be available. And that's something that D. Eskridge hasn't been the last couple years. So I think they do go into this draft and say, all right, let's find a diamond in the rough and find a receiver late.
I was advocating for that 3rd wide receiver to really be used more loosely as like a 3rd pass catcher and for it to be like a Jerick McKinnon type running back. But, Bump, you know how to plan a game plan. You know how to think like an offensive coordinator. I just look at offenses that I like and say, like, oh, they have a pass-catching running back, and he can also run the ball. How cool is that? He's got 9 touchdowns. But does it make it harder to defend when that player is, in fact, a true wide receiver as opposed to a tight end or running back?
Yeah, because there are things receivers can do that tight ends and running backs just can't do. Even who do you think is the best receiving running back in the league right now?
Kamara or McKinnon.
Or even McCaffrey, right?
Yeah.
Now, those guys are great receivers at the running back spot. You can put them in the slot and have them go to work, but you got to scheme stuff up for them. You can't put them in the slot or out there as a receiver and say, okay, we're running this concept. I want you to gain leverage on this backer, stem him at the top. You have to move the safety with your eyes. Keep it skinny. If you see a too high safety, I need you to split those guys. They're just tricks to the trade that a true receiver can do, and that allows him to maneuver across the field efficiently. With a running back, it's like, okay, we're going to get him in the swing. We'll get him on a wheel route. We'll run a nice little option. You're just limited in what you could do because that's not what they train for. That's not what they do for a living.
I'm just peppering you with a lot of random questions now that I'm just thinking, like, well, what about this? So now I'm wondering, I think that there might be some people listening saying, well, if you want to be a balanced offense or if you want to be the offense that Pete Carroll might want to see, maybe you don't need that guy. Does having the 3rd wide receiver also make it easier to be the offense Pete Carroll might want to be? Or it's like, it doesn't matter. It makes you an effective offense.
I don't think this offense doesn't go if they don't have a 3rd receiver. If they don't have a legit, this is our guy, I think the offense can still go. Why? Because of what you mentioned. You got tight ends. They use their tight ends a bit more. And you can have a filler, right? You had a filler in Marquise Goodwin as that third receiver, and he still made some plays. This offense still got going. There's nothing like having a legit number 3, but I think because of the way this offense is built with the tight ends and the way they run the football, it's not life or death if you don't have a guy to hold that spot down every single snap when you have that personnel out there.
I am, though, and I'm sure you think of it this way, too. There are 2 things that can take this offense to the next level. I am tacking on that the offensive line continues to play well. So obviously the offensive line makes or breaks this. But one would be a true 2 running back situation where both guys can be great. And 2 would be adding another great target. Or pass catcher, excuse me. I think there are 2 things that kind of take this offense to the next level. So if we're talking about like, okay, hey, you were a top 5 scoring offense for a while, but then you kind of dipped and then you struggled. I think if you want to be like, no, you can take on any team with this offense, the 2 things that can help you most are if both of your running backs are really solid and potential starters. So you have that good 1-2 punch of like, like what they had in Cleveland for a while with Nick Chubb and Hunt or whatever. Or you have a great third wide receiver, like someone who's getting a good like 600 yards, like 1,000 for Tyler and DK, and then 600 for this guy.
Yeah, no, I take the running backs.
Yeah,
I take the running back. 1-2 combo is something beautiful, and that's just the style that they play. The Hawks don't play a style, spread them out, let's throw it all across the yard type of style. That's when a third receiver is crucial. Even a fourth receiver, because sometimes you'll come out in 10 personnel and say, tight ends, you guys stay on the sideline. I'm going to throw some fast guys out there. But I'm looking up the most prolific offenses when it comes to passing this year. And obviously you got the Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles, the Lions, and San Fran. Let's go to the Chiefs. You look at their situation at receiver. They don't have a true third receiver. They got Travis Kelce and a bunch of guys that fill in and run this thing. Why does it work over there? Because their offense is based on throwing the football and tossing across the yard and spreading it around. That's just not what the Hawks do. They want to pack it in. They do want to throw, but they want to bootleg. They want to come out 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, 2 receivers. That's just not what they do. So a third receiver will help this offense, but I think that if they were to ride with a Marquise Goodwin type of dude at that number 3 spot, you get 400 yards and 4 touchdowns out of him, you're good.